Talking Music with Big Andy. In this episode, Bad Mary are talking music with me, Big Andy. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Tonight I have with me a band from America called Bad Mary, or two members thereof. Hiya.
Hello.
Right. Now, there is no mistaking that you are effectively a punk band.
Effectively, yeah. I think that's what we're trying to do, I guess.
We're just loud. We're very loud.
Loud and fast, and just the right amount of bratty energy, I think, is what we like to create and what we like to write, I think, and what we like to perform. I think to us, the whole punk thing is more, it's a lot of definitely the sound that we're trying to go after. We're trying to play like simple, fast rock and roll music that's loud and fast, but we also want to catch that attitude, but we also want to play music that is fun and energetic to perform.
Yeah. I definitely get all of my and what I'm missing now, because we haven't been able to play live like in any of our venues in so long, is that's where I get all of my pent up aggression out. This is when we play our shows. I was talking with someone today who only knows me from work, and she last night actually watched some of our videos on YouTube, and this morning the first thing she said to me was just like, I had no idea. I was not expecting that at all. And it really the band, our music, is my personal outlet to get kind of like, it's not even anger all the time, but just like emotion, just like any energy, anything that during the day, you know, like you can't be constantly on 100 when you're just going through your normal day-to-day life. But in our sets, we're at like 500. We just turn it up and we go. And I miss it so much. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
It's very cathartic, really. You know, there's like a catharsis to it. It's therapeutic in a way. It
needs to come back.
It's like we're a little pent up. You know,
our live streams are fun, but it's different energy.
I think the other thing is that when you play live, you'll get that automatic reaction from the audience, and you feed off that, and they feed off you, and it's a two-way thing, you know. And you need that. You need both of you involved in it to get the right feel.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed is the fact that there's not a big thing, but everywhere I saw there was comment about the fact that you're a multi-generational band.
Yes.
So,
It's
weird, isn't it? A little bit.
I love it.
Me too, but I love weird things.
So my dad is our drummer. When we first started, Rory Levin is in one of our songs as lyrics. We mentioned her in one of our albums, but she was our original drummer and moved when we were first starting out. She got an internship in Florida, and we were like, oh, well, we want to keep playing, but I don't know. And I was kind of like, well, I know a guy. I don't know if he'd be interested in what we're doing, and 10 years later, lo and behold, my dad's our drummer, and it's a lot of fun. I always joke with him. I'm like, we don't go on family vacation. We go on tour.
Which, I mean, what better vacation is there than touring around?
That's how we have fun. So.
Different parts of the world.
Does it cause you any problem, though? Because, I mean, some of your lyrics are a little explicit, shall we say? I mean, I don't think, my parents were never too keen on me swearing in front of them. So I just,
I'm pretty sure that Bill is pretty well acquainted with some facets of the English language that may or may not involve the swear words that we like to use quite a bit. We're a bunch of brats. We're a bunch of like bratty, adults.
He was in a punk band before I was even
Yes.
born. So
Okay, fair enough.
But
Yeah, so-
but no, well, the thing is too, I was a theater kid growing up, and every now and then I still dabble in like the rock musicals and that stuff. But I went to school for theater, and when I was in high school, he kind of pulled me aside and was like, "Listen, I know you're going to be in shows and plays where you're going to have to curse, or you might have to do stuff that like you might be uncomfortable. I don't want me being in the audience to ever make you uncomfortable." He's like, "Go do the job, be your character, do not even think about me." Like that's what you do, So he grew up as a performer as a kid. My whole family on that side was musicians in some form or another, so he has a very performer's mindset, and kind of imparted that to me, like, perform, don't worry about what I think, don't worry about if that's what you want to do, if that's your project, then like do it. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And the other member of the band is college professor, is that right?
He was my professor in college in the theater department. David is more on the tech side of things. So he's a designer. He's an animator now. He does like every single facet of theater design, set design, costume design, makeup, like all that stuff.
David is a incredibly gifted individual. He taught himself how to animate over a sabbatical, which is when he actually animated the movie that came out with our most recent album. He did that all himself because he's either a glutton for punishment. He's a glutton for punishment and incredibly talented at the same time. Like, David's talents are remarkable. All of our graphics for the band, pretty much across the board, were David. David designed all of them. And he's a brilliant designer, clearly, because I think the branding and the stuff that he came up with is very, very good.
Yeah.
And just so good with it. The only thing he did not design was the cover to our EP called Glitter Bomb, which was actually drawn by a teenager that reached out to us from like the middle of the mountains in Russia. By the name of, her name is Linka, and she reached out to us like, "I would like to do an album cover for you," and we were like, "Let's do it." And then that's the only thing he didn't design, but everything else he did.
Cool. Oh, that's cool. Great. I was looking, you're based in New York, yes? Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
Just wanted to get that out of the way, so I know where you're from and everybody else does as well. You had your first album, Better Days, came out in 2013.
Yeah.
And then you kind of had a gap for a year or so until 2015 when you brought the next thing out. Are all of these recorded? Are they home recorded, or are they studio? Did you go into studio to record them?
So Better Days was kind of our first foray into recording as well as like original songwriting. So we started as a covers band, and Hangover, which is the third.
I think Hangover is actually the second song on Better Days.
Yeah,
we should know our own albums better, but sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But that was our first original that we wrote and started performing and kind of threw into our sets. So Better Days, we were definitely, I think, still figuring out our sounds, still figuring out what exactly we wanted to do. And that we recorded all at David's house.
Yes.
So that was like a very much home project, home recording. Let's learn how to do this. What are we doing? And it's crazy to think how long we've been playing some of those songs.
Some of those songs, we've been playing them for probably some of them probably close to 10 years. It probably took us about 2 years or so, or a year or so, to be comfortable enough to put originals down on a recording. We were playing covers for a long time, and then David and I had a conversation where I got the itch and David got the itch, because I grew up in original bands, and David had an original band in college, and I had original bands in high school and in college. So I grew up writing my own music when I was, a teenager, and David and I both had the itch to write. And I remember saying, like, "Do you want to start writing stuff?" And David's like, "If you're ready to go down this path, let's do it. Because once that door opens, I don't think we can go back and close it." So we haven't since. So we started writing our own stuff. And then after that, when we started writing new music immediately after Better Days had released, we already had like 1 or 2 new songs that we started performing. What When I Want and Sucks to Be You were both songs that were performed out live almost immediately after Better Days had come out. And we played those songs when we played our gig at the Warped Tour, the Vans Warped Tour in New York, when they had it there, when we were on that in 2015. But then we were contacted by this amazing music producer that we worked with twice by the name of Matt Storm out of Brooklyn. And we worked at the studio called Studio G in Brooklyn, which is an amazing studio in the Williamsburg area of Brooklyn. And Greenpoint, I think it might actually be Greenpoint, Williamsburg. They're like right next to each other. I should know this, like my family's from there. Anyway, we recorded with this guy, Matt Storm, who did an amazing job on those 2 EPs, Killing Dinosaurs and We Could Have Saved the World. Were done in a studio with the producer, like I said 30 times, his name is Matt Storm, and another man by the name of Francisco Botero, who was also wonderful to work with, those great guys. And then after he had contacted us, we did those 2 EPs with him. And then we kind of fell into doing an EP with this group out of an old haunted in quotes mansion on Staten Island.
So I'm going to take the quotes down because I fully believe that place was haunted. It's a murder house. Like there's stuff that went down there that we know for a fact what, like it was, I think the owner, who was also the guy who we were working with, his friend owns and lives in, I don't know if you're familiar with the Amityville Horror House.
Yeah.
That's a real house. I grew up not too far away from it in Amityville. So he owns this super haunted house in Staten Island. His best friend like owns the Amityville Horror House. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Ghosts. So yeah, we recorded in this mansion. It's called the Kreischer Mansion. You can Google it or look it up on the internet to see. It looks like a really it out of nowhere. There's like a Victorian style mansion in Staten Island, New York, where you don't really get that vibe from Staten Island typically. I
think they filmed some scenes for Gotham.
They film a lot of stuff at this place. A lot of movies and TV shows are filmed there because it's got such a good look.
Because it's actually haunted.
Or it's haunted. So we recorded there. There was something cool about recording a Misfits cover in a haunted house, which to me was kind of like the perfect way to go about it. And then after that, we had worked with producers for a while. We had learned what we wanted to get out of a recording session. We had learned what we wanted to get out of stuff getting mixed and mastered. And when we started writing music for The Return of Space Girl, which is our 30-minute long punk rock, space rock opera.
And you say when we started writing music, there were songs that David kind of went through his computer very recently. And there were some tracks that he was like, wow, we started writing this one song like 5 or 6 years ago, which was during the recordings of the other records. So like a lot of our writings have overlapped and it's like, okay, well that doesn't fit with this, but we can put that over there with this group thing.
But we did that one at home. That was that we recorded in David's basement, which he has turned into a studio.
So the first and the last ones we released were home recordings.
I noticed that you had a version of Space Girl on the first album, and then you did a different version of it on Return of Space Girl.
Yeah, we wanted to re-record it for the record just to have it there. We figured it was a perfect song to redo and to fit on the rock opera album. That was like the first song I wrote for Bad Mary.
You wrote that way before.
I wrote that one before Bad Mary was even a thing. I wrote that before we were a cover band. Before the band was really even together, I wrote that years and years ago, and I've had it like in the tank. And when we started writing original stuff, I went to the band. I'm like, I have this song.
Mike actually asked me, he was like, the lyrics are really weird, so you might need to change some of them. And I listened to it. I was like, absolutely not. I want to say lasers for eyeballs. This is all staying in. You've done it now. We've embraced the weird.
Cool.
Let's have a look at one of the band's videos.
So you okay? Now you did a Christmas single,
Silent Night.
Two.
Well, we released Silent Night, though we haven't released the other on Spotify.
Well, yes, but it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Sorry, I did.
There's only one on
I did
Spotify.
the two the wrong way. Don't take that the wrong way. I know in England that's a.
Yeah, no, that's
that's
fine.
an obscene gesture.
fine.
I'm sorry.
All right. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. And I must admit, I was a bit surprised as well by your cover of "Don't You Want Me." Don't get me wrong, I think it's really good. I really like it, but considering all your other stuff, it seemed really kind of tame. I was expecting it to go wild any minute, and it didn't.
Yeah, you know, I think what we wanted to do with that is we wanted to focus on making the riff a little heavier. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have any synth or anything like that, but we are fans of new wave. We do like new wave. It's mostly, I guess, mostly English new wave because there's not too much American new wave. But we've always liked it, and that was a song we were playing for years. And what happened is when we started our Patreon channel, we at the beginning we were doing cover videos every month, and that was one of the first cover videos that we had put out for our Patreon fan base. And this year we decided that instead of writing a new record, which we're in the process of writing songs for a new record now, we were like, you know what, let's have some fun and let's put out a cover album. So I think by November of this year, we should have a cover album out. And that was one of the first songs we wanted to put on it.
Yeah, we just didn't want to have a lull in release. So we're kind of doing that thing I mentioned before where we're overlapping. So we're kind of letting the originals bubble, but to keep going in this very strange year, we're like, let's just have fun, put some covers together. I think that recording too was done, like Mike said, when we started our Patreon, but we were getting new recording equipment that was, I think, in around the same time or before the Return of Space Girl recordings. So we were kind of like figuring out how everything worked with the new studio setup, and we were churning them out very quickly. Like there's stuff that we realized that worked and stuff that, not that it didn't work on Patreon, but it was kind of taking us away from writing originals then.
Yeah, so we stopped doing the covers on Patreon after probably about 3 or 4 months because it was
the videos that
the videos that were killing full days, and we weren't able to get together and rehearse our new music.
But we've had that recording for a bit, so we were like, oh, let's throw it out, let's put it out there, we got it, let's put it out.
We're going to put out one a month until November, and then we're going to put out a cover album that probably will have 2 additional songs on it on top of the ones that we release every month.
Cool. So what sort of bands are your influences then? I mean, is it all punk stuff? Is there other stuff that comes in there?
We're a hodgepodge because, like you said, we're the multi-generational thing of it. It comes from everywhere. But you and I both have some similar influences, but definitely some different ones as well. So
mine are all over the place. My favorite bands, like my favorite band for a while has been The Police. I absolutely love The Police. And I think they're kind of like 3-piece and go, and how much sound they can create while still being like melodic at the same time. I really appreciate that. But like I mentioned before, I grew up as a theater kid, and a lot of the lyrics are very important to me. The fact that we did like the Return of Space Girl, where it had a through line, had a story. I got to kind of see the songs through different characters. I channeled a lot of the musical theater. And while I do love the classics and stuff, like I gravitate more towards like The Who's Tommy, or like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, or
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh,
Horror Show?
God. Yeah. Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was in that when I was like 16, the Rocky Horror Show. That like just the off the beat, like heavier musicals, but I like story. So that John Cameron Mitchell has been a huge influence. He and Stephen Trask wrote Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and like that music is ridiculous, and that story is so interesting. I got to play Itzhak 2 years ago.
All right.
And getting to live that show definitely added to my appreciation of the music and how much I realized it influenced me. I don't think I really realized it until I did it, and I was like, oh, this is where a lot of this comes from.
That's where a lot of your performance comes from too, like your ability to perform. From my side, David.
Oh, and the Bangles. I gotta say, like the Bangles and the Go-Go's, and I love Yeah, I love them. There's a lot of bands. I forget what I like until like Mike starts talking, and I apologize for interrupting. We're like, oh, them too. But the
Whatever.
Bangles, the Go-Go's, and the Go-Go's, we saw Head Over Heels on Broadway when it was on Broadway, which is the musical that uses all of the Go-Go's music. And that was another one where I was like, this is like worlds colliding for me, because this is a musical that is covered in glitter. It's a rock and roll show. And like it's all the Go-Go's music that every time a new song came on, I was like, oh, this song, oh, now on this song. And like it's geeking out the entire time. But I'm gonna stop now and let Mike say what he likes.
David actually grew up in England. He's originally from Hawaii, but he grew up in England when he was he went to school in England, not college, but he went to high school or whatever, the secondary school, whatever, primary school, whatever in England. So he went to
you would know the answer to that. What is it called?
He went to Wellington, I think. He went to so he grew up in England, and he's a kid of the 70s and 80s. So he kind of grew up around the whole, like probably after the punk movement in England, but they were heavily influential. He's a big Queen guy as well. He loves Queen, but he also loves like the Sex Pistols and Stiff Little Fingers and bands like that. And the Boomtown Rats, I think he really likes. And
Wham.
And well, yeah. But anywho, he loves Wham. We all have one, right? So I am a 90s punk rock guy. I grew up, the first album I ever bought with my own money when I was, I'm going to say like 8 or 9 years old, was Green Day's Insomniac. And you can argue whether or not Green Day is like a punk band, whatever. I think for people of my age, they're one of the most influential punk rock bands out there. It's like a gateway. It was like a gateway to punk rock. And like, because of Green Day, I got into Rancid and NoFX and AFI, which was another band out of the Bay Area. And then because of NoFX and bands like that, I listened to The Offspring, Bad Religion. And then I'm like, well, who do these guys like? And then it's the Misfits, and it's Dead Kennedys, and it's the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Damned and the Descendants. So pretty much my whole palette is like, people would always joke around in college that my iPod, oh, I love the Clash too, would always joke around that my iPod is like the history of punk rock. So that's where a lot of my influence is. I've always liked fast, upbeat, sort of angry music, but not too angry to the point where you couldn't still, at least kind of enjoy it and sing along. And I do also like a lot of heavy metal. I'm a big Iron Maiden fan.
We got to see them. Me, Mike, and David got to see them, and I wasn't super
saw Iron Maiden last year.
Versed in Iron Maiden, and we get to the concert. David's geeking out. Mike is geeking out. I have no idea what to expect. And like, I've heard them. I'm not as versed in it. And the second it starts, this giant freaking plane just falls from the ceiling, and it's like a full on show. And I'm like, I am so here for everything that's happening. So thank you both for introducing me to the magic of Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden shows are unbelievably insane. But I also like Judas Priest as well. I like Black Sabbath. I'm not the biggest on some of the like most classic rock stuff anymore, because our radio stations here in New York especially have kind of overplayed a lot of the stuff. But like, I grew up listening to punk rock, heavy metal, aggressive rock from the 90s, the 70s, the 80s. And, that's always been my backbone. I like really good punky music.
I'm going to answer for my dad.
Answer for your dad.
My dad's not here. But he's a big influence on me also. I need to state that, because growing up as a kid, he was always in a band. He was in an original band throughout my entire childhood, and music is something that is so important to him, and he definitely imparted that to me. And I was definitely that kid in elementary school that like, I didn't listen to anything that was pop on the radio. Like, I was all like, what is this? I don't know what this is. And like, he would play Cream. Like, we would listen to Cream. We would listen to a lot of Beatles, a lot of probably the classic rock that you're like, they overplay it now. But like, as a kid, getting introduced to all this new stuff, like, it opened my eyes to rock and roll. So I learned to love it as a kid from him. So bring it back to your first question, like, what's it like being in a multi-generational band? He was the person that really got me into rock and what it was like. Before they got super restrictive on like, oh, you have to be 21 to be in this place. Like I remember being in like a bar at 8 watching him play, you know, because they were like, oh, that's your dad in the bit. You can come in. It's fine. It's fine. You're fine. So like I was introduced to this world by him. So he also loves a lot of the bands that you mentioned, and I think has learned them from us.
Yeah,
like the newer
he's
stuff because of what we play. Also, you know, like The Offspring, like Bad Religion. Well, we've seen Bad Religion now several times. They're amazing.
And it would be remiss if we didn't also mention the fact that Blondie was a huge influence on us. The band Blondie, like that's New York, Lower East Side, Ramones and Blondie are a huge influence on Bad Mary's music and have been since day one. Yeah. So if we don't mention that, or if we forget to mention that, we would feel very ashamed of ourselves. So we have to bring that up too.
But
you got the whole CBGB's sort of history there. It's kind of, you know, and that's where they all came from. All of those bands came through there, and they influenced just about everyone at one point or another. After they came through there,
it's a shame it's no longer there. You know.
Yeah.
No, I know. I watched a really good film about it. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a film about CBGB's about the guy who opened it up and ran it. It's a really good film.
I gotta check it out.
So I've written down 5 songs that I really like of yours. Hangover was one of them. I thought that was a really good song.
That's our first song.
I really like that. Mars Attacks. It's just, it's got so much energy in it. So love it. I, Robot, I loved because the timing in it is so odd. It's the stopping and starting in that. It's just really, and it's so clean. You know, all of the stop and starts are so clean and so well done. I like Wake Up and your cover of Don't You Want Me. Some of the tracks are not full on punk. Some of them are a little bit different. And that's what I liked about it, is it's not kind of, I suppose it's a bit like the Green Day stuff. It's not, you expect Green Day albums to be all like their singles. But then when you listen to the albums, there's so much other stuff going on there. And I found that with yours as well, that, you know, you listen to all the tracks and it's not what you expect with some of them. Some of them are a little bit more laid back or a little bit more, say the timing and the way you play them and the way you do them, it's your phrasing and that sort of thing is different. And I really like your material. I mean, before I even thought about this podcast, I was already following you guys, and I was listening to your stuff on Spotify and that sort of thing. So
thank you.
I really enjoy what you do. It's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what you're saying is when we were doing the Return of Space Girl, Amanda and I have both been in theatrical productions of American Idiot on 2 different occasions.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't. American Idiot and Green Day's next album, 21st Century Breakdown, were definitely albums I listened to a lot while getting prepared to write for the Return of Space Girl.
Yeah.
We wanted to do stuff that was obviously in our wheelhouse. I think a lot of the songs on that record are, but then you have songs like Wake Up. I always wanted to write a song that was like a big whole audience sings with the band type thing.
Yeah.
And that's what that was. And that's a very, to me, that's a very modern Green Day moment. You know, that's a very, you know, Homecoming or like the end of one of those albums, or, you know, like something right out of American Idiot that was like the whole place is singing, like 21 Guns or something like that. Obviously 21 Guns is from a different record, but I mean the show.
Well, it's in American Idiot, the musical.
Yeah, American Idiot, the musical. So it's one of those things where I wanted something like that. And, you know, we also wanted to kind of have that kind of message, you know, that kind of wake up message. And we've actually done ourselves a disservice because that song's actually pretty hard to sing. So it doesn't get played live that much unless we're playing the full album. If we're playing the full album, we will play Wake Up. And the first time we played it, people had already got the memo because the record was out for almost a week before we didn't play any songs from the Return of Space Girl until the album release party, outside of us playing the song Addicted in Japan. Right. So we didn't play any of those songs out. None of those songs were played live. We wanted people to come to the record release party, which was like the Friday after the album had come out that Tuesday. And we wanted to come to the party. And and we kept telling them, you got 4 days to learn the stuff. You got 4 days to learn the stuff. And it was really cool when we got to Wake Up, when we got to the point where the audience was to sing with the band, the audience sang with us, which was like one of the coolest things that we could have happened, because it happened perfectly.
That's brilliant.
That's a surreal moment.
Yeah.
That like really is a surreal moment when it's like you're singing a song that you wrote and you poured your heart into, and the audience is just completely there with you. And like, yeah. You know what though? That song will get, since we didn't play it out so much before we recorded it, the more we sing it, the easier it'll get.
That's right.
That's fine. We got time. But it's funny that you say iRobot, because that was the song that we were writing, that David was writing for like 5 years before it was on the record of Space Girl.
Yeah,
so there's like
5 or 6
different
years,
versions of iRobot. We're like, no, we didn't get it right. Let's try it again. No, we didn't get it right. Let's try it again. And like it took time to really find its like final form.
Yeah. I really like that. It kind of took me by surprise, because I wasn't expecting the stops in it. They kept to the bits at the beginning. I was expecting it just to be a kind of full on, song, but it just kind of, with the stops, I was like, oh, well, hang on a minute, this is different. This is cool.
Hey, we put together a rock opera, so there's got to be a little bit of prog on there. So it's one of those things where and it's actually a really powerful scene in the movie too. If you watch the Space Girl movie, which there's the 30-minute a short film that David did that's on YouTube. Yeah. And it's a great scene in that film where it's the girl who's building the Space Girl robot. And I think the premise of the song was based off of, I think it's Asimov's Rules of Robotics, because David's a big fan of Isaac Asimov, and he wrote that song. So yeah, little tidbits, little Easter eggs.
Another clip from another video. So, I mean, at the moment with lockdown and that, you say you're working on this covers album and you're doing that sort of thing, and you're working on material for a new album. When you expect that to be fully finished and released?
The covers will be out in November for sure.
We are trying to do, I know we have our next one coming out March 12th.
March 12th, a week from Friday. Yeah, we have another cover coming out, and I can, it's not a surprise. We did a cover of White Rabbit that we've been playing now for probably the last 3 or 4 years live, maybe 5 years live. And it's always a really big, it's a big hit when we play it live. People really like it. Amanda obviously sings that song very, very well.
Thanks, babe.
And we re-recorded that, and we've had it sitting around for a while. So we're going to release that. And then after that, we're going to do some other things. But the cover album should be out in November. And we want to do our next record after that. We kind of want to do a simple, I've got more of like a garagey punk kind of feel, but we kind of want to do something a little bit more simple. Amanda and I have been throwing around some possible album names that are a little fun and silly and kind of tongue in cheek
right now. It's like, oh, this is a great album name. This is a great album name.
It's after doing a rock opera, we need to take a step back. Like we never want to do anything that complicated ever again. Like what David was saying the other day, like one of the songs has like so many tracks on it, and he was just like, I don't want to do that again. So we're just going to try to keep it as simple as possible next time. Probably do a bunch of like 2 to 3 minute songs. Probably next year sometime, maybe 2020, late 2022 for that.
I noticed, one thing I will say is the titles of your EPs and your albums are brilliant. I mean, it's like, killing dinosaurs, and we could have saved the world. They're, you know, they're not your run of the mill titles. It's just, it makes you think, what are this band about? What are they doing?
We're definitely jokesters, and we're people who like to have a good time, and we're sarcastic. So stuff like "We Could Have Saved the World" has kind of got like this dark, sarcastic optimism to it. We actually saw graffiti that said "We could have ruled the world" in the room where we actually took the photos for that album, which is it's a rundown
Abandoned.
it's an abandoned psychiatric center on Long Island here in New York, and you're not technically allowed to be there. So we broke into one of the buildings and took some album shots. Wait, no, we didn't do that. Never mind.
That never happened. But it's all
people
Photoshop.
don't do that all the time. Oh, wait. So we took some pictures in this room, and one of the graffitis said "We could have ruled the world," and I'm like, "What if we said we could have saved the world?" and scratch it off with like our pink?
Yeah.
And it was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, do you find some amazing places to do your recording, your photo shoots?
Yeah, we're weird. It's just
figure
how
it
it
out.
goes. We're a group of weirdos. It's the way it is. We have very strange interests. We're all into like the nerdiest of stuff. Oh, in the end, we always tell people all the time, we're just a bunch of dorks.
Yeah, and my dad's always like, "You just tell me where I gotta show up, and I'll be there."
Yep.
The thing is, in my opinion, every rock band should be like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Weirdos and dorks. That's what you need to be in a rock band.
yeah, exactly. That's what drives you to start a rock band. Luckily for Bad Mary too, there's really, we've been privileged to really have no ego, as terms of like individuals. We all obviously have the things that we all kind of value the same things when it comes to creating music, and we all value each other's opinions and input so much that we're never overtly too harsh to one another. We try not to get too egocentric.
Yeah.
And sometimes, hey, listen, it gets the best of us sometimes. Everyone's got their breaking point in their moment, but we're a band, we're a family.
David gets excited about though when we're like, bro, because we do our rehearsals for anything new that we're working on Patreon. So like that's where if we are practicing new stuff, if we haven't played it out yet, like you can see us play it horribly there first. But if we like bicker and stuff, David's always like, "Oh, get the cameras out. We're gonna start fighting. Everyone watch." So like he gets excited when we get like, "No, this part should be this way. Those are the wrong words. What are you doing?" Like that. So
One of the worst
Really
things
loves
about
it.
bands is being in a band with people with huge egos. It's just impossible. You can't deal with it.
No.
I used to book bands for a place, and the amount of bands used to turn up there, and they thought they were tribute bands, and they turned up there, and you'd think that they were the real band the way they were acting, and you kind of go, "This is a little pub in the middle of nowhere. Why are you showing off and pretending that you're not really Green Day? You're not really the Doors. You do know that, don't you?"
The closest thing.
So, apart from the new albums, and hopefully once the lockdown finishes and everyone can get back out there, you're going to be doing some live gigs.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Yes.
So where do you want to take this? Where do you want to go from here? What's the big plan, the glorious 5-year plan, and whatever?
So, well, at home before lockdown, we had a residency at our like favorite place near us that is one of the few venues around that really supports original music. And we got one show in, and then the lockdown started.
It was a shame.
It was, yeah. And it was great. Like the bands that were on the bill were awesome. We can't wait to play with them again. The place was packed. Like there was so much energy, and I was so excited. We're like, this is going to be a great year. Next month, we had a show that I think it was March 13th.
March 13th
we
was
were
the
like,
day
we can't.
lockdown happened here. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, once everything is lifted and it's safe to start again, that we can get back into a swing, especially there, for the place to play live, to play with our friends, because the bands that are in that community there are really close friends. We've really created something special that we hope we can foster and continue.
Here's some more music from the band.
I've had enough of your motor mouth, and I'm sick of all your shit. This grandstand deal won't ever stop, and we don't want to deal with it. See, you're loading up your gallon tongue, but you're just shooting blanks. Well, pat yourself on your spineless back, because I'm giving you no thanks. Everyone knows, they know, that you mug around like you're on the show, but
we really want to go back to Japan.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
We want to
for
go back
us.
to Japan. We want to go back to Japan regularly because our first tour to Japan was so successful for us. We also do a lot of music festivals here in America, which we would love to continue to do that. We would love to continue to do more festivals and stuff like that here in the States. We've had some great success doing some of these festivals. And going to Japan was lights out good. If there are festivals in other places that would have us, we would love to go. We would go just about anywhere.
If we can get there, we will go.
Yes,
That's really
if we can get there without going completely bankrupt, we will go.
Mm.
And just producing more music, playing a lot of shows, and really cultivating and continuing to grow our in this day and age. Unfortunately,
unfortunately.
I don't want to say unfortunately. Sorry. In this day and age, you can really connect with a lot of people through streaming services and streaming platforms. So, and the unfortunate issue dealing with the lockdown of the pandemic, which was terrible for pretty much just about everyone. It's been a very difficult year or a year and a half. And coming out of that, though, the positive, which we're always going to try to find the positives in a situation, is that we were really able to connect with our amazing fans through social media platforms, through Twitch and
stuff like
Patreon
this.
and YouTube
Yeah,
this.
You know,
I mean, it's like the big positive to come out, and you know what? It's an audience that we continue to work with and have fun with over the next 5 years or something. It's going to be an integral part of our plan is to really grow that streaming platform.
it definitely forced us, I think, to step up our streaming
Mhm.
because we've been streaming for a while now.
Yeah, probably about 4 years.
But because that has now become really our only outlet for connecting with our fans and our community that we've created, we've really had to be like, okay, how do we make this better? How do we make this more how do we make this feel more like an in-person connection? How do we make this more personal? Or like David, bringing it back to David and his graphics work, he's had a lot of fun, frustration, and time to kind of put into revamping our streams. And he's created a lot of like very specific to us graphics. And it's made it a lot more personal. So we do want to continue with that, even when we are able to play live again, because it's just kind of created
we just want to make this community. The more local community is tight knit, and we want to play shows with these folks. But then the larger, broader community of people through the internet, festivals, tours to places like Japan. Hey, you never know, maybe the UK, stuff like that as well. These are things that we would always be open to if we had the ability to do it. And it's platforms like this, or Twitch or Facebook, that we've been able to connect to people like you that have opened up doorways. We wouldn't have gone to Japan the first time if we didn't make connections with people through the internet. So
and what's great about the streams and the connections is the people that listen to us, we have a chat bar on the side, and they have now started talking to each other. So people that don't live anywhere near each other, we have people that are in Japan that tune into our live streams, that talk to the people that live in New York, that tune into our live streams, that talk to the people that live in Scotland. No matter where you are in the world, if you catch us at this time, we can all be together in this little video box.
Yeah.
So it kind of fosters each other in each experience.
Absolutely.
It would be great to see you come over to the UK. I'd love to come and see you guys live, because I can't imagine it, given the amount of energy you've got in your recorded music. I can't imagine what it must be like seeing you live, actually there in front of the stage. It would be brilliant.
I will tell you
I
right
would
now,
love to.
I am not adverse to completely downing a complete 12-ounce Red Bull before every single set.
He does it every time.
Every single set, like 10 minutes before we go on.
I'm a
Red
Monster
Bull.
girl myself,
Yeah,
so
she-
he gets his Red Bull. I get my Monster.
I'm more of a Monster guy as well.
No, I would love to go back. I did. I know David would know all the place, but because David spent most of a lot of his life in England. But I did. When I was a student at Hofstra, I did 2 study abroad trips to London. And I haven't been able to come back since. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that would be like if we got an opportunity to come back to the UK, because I went there. I went to Ireland. We did like a loop around, and I got to see a lot of. We went to France too in that trip. But I would go to any of those places. But I would definitely I like traveling. I love traveling. I love seeing places that are different from here. I would love to come back. If we said this a million times already, if we had the opportunity, if we can get there, I will be there tomorrow. Like
Well, I definitely think you'll be welcome here. I mean, I can't see anybody not wanting to listen to your music because I think it's great. I think you guys are great at what you do. Thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure. It really has. I hope everything goes well for you, and that once we come out of lockdown, everything gets back on the straight and narrow, and you start building things back up again and getting out there and gigging, everything like that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you. This was
for
great.
making this happen. This was awesome, and thank you for doing this for not only us but the other bands. We all appreciate that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much for tuning into the podcast, and I'll see you again. Thank you very much. Bye.
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 Please don't forget to click on like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be really, really cool if you could do that. And if you've got any comments at all to make or anything you want to, any bands you'd like to see on here, then just leave me a note in the comments. Thank you. Talking Music with Big and